Alright guys, so we're going to start off by talking about some different forges, and of course, the first of any video, the first thing I do is talk a little bit about safety. Even before you ever put hammer to metal, you're going to need to keep in mind, keep yourself protected. First of all, most importantly, have a pair of safety glasses. Now, I don't care if you're digging in the dump, if you're driving around, for goodness sakes, put something over your eyes. Even at the Renaissance festivals, I usually have these glasses here, which are a little older looking because they have the bridge, but nonetheless, no matter what time period I am, I don't care if glasses are in vogue or not, I'm going to have something over my eyes. Now, when you're digging around in scrap piles and you're looking for these various pieces that we're going to be talking about over the course of the show, like I said, dress appropriately. Make sure you have good, heavy leather boots, and second importantly, have some good gloves. There's no telling when you pull up a piece of metal if there's going to be an ugly critter under it, so take a couple of precautions, get some gloves, get some glasses, and we'll have a good and safe time putting together a forge. The first thing I'm going to start off showing you some of the basics about a forge. I mean, the idea is to make fire. I mean, that's it, plain and simple. You know, a lot of people when they get started in something, they want to overcomplicate it. You know, in the beginning, most forges were nothing more than a campfire. In fact, some countries still, in very primitive parts of the world, when they do their forging, they actually have banana leaves stitched together through a bamboo tube to blow air into the fire. So understand, this is not rocket science. All you have to do is have a fire and a little bit of air, and you will have a working forge. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the basics of one of my portable forges, one that Jay Riegert made. Give you the idea of just how it's supposed to work. A forge basically breaks down into two main items, the fire pot and the blower. The fire pot is the thing that's going to hold the actual heat. The blower is what's going to provide the air blast. And every forge can fall into one of those two categories unless it's a gas forge. Now, the first thing I want to look at is going to be how we're going to get air into this. This is probably going to be the single most aggravating problem that you're going to have, is finding a good air supply. So let's check this little guy out right here. Swap over here. And first of all, if you'll notice, this is a little hand crank option right here. Now, by turning this handle, I actually create a burst of air. Now, some of you may have seen one of these before. This is called a hand crank bellows. Now, you can still find some of these on the internet. You can find a few around, maybe even on the farm every now and then. But the blower, this was an 1870s revolutionary item, because with the blacksmiths, beforehand you had bellows that were absolutely huge. And the bellows were so big, I mean 5, 6, 7 feet long, you couldn't do a lot with them. So when they came out with this machined, geared little item, it was a heck of an advancement. If you can find one of these, they are great to have. I mean, they will solve all your problems. You don't need electricity, you have a lot of control over your blast, but at the end of the day, it's still providing an air blast. And if you can see the other side here, let me spin this around just a little bit if you can. I'll tell you what, I'll show it to you in just a second. What the deal is this looks just like a hairdryer. And in fact, this is the great-great-grandfather of the Vidal Sassoon hairdryer. So if you can find one of these, great. If it works, even better. Expect to pay a bit of money for these guys. I believe that one of the new hand cranks, I think there's actually one company that's producing them, but they are outrageously expensive. $500 or so. But if you can find one of these guys in good conditions for $150, $200, you're in business. But there again, that's out of the league of a lot of beginners. So just to give you an idea. Now, the second thing I want to show you is right over here, and this is going to be what they call the fire pot or the pan. Now, this whole area right here is what is called the pan. Now, your pan size is going to vary. All it's to do is just to hold extra fuel. All the action of this guy is going to be happening right here in the center. This is going to be called the fire pot. I'm going to take my little brush here, and I'm going to brush a lot of this stuff away. And I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like. Let's tilt that forward just a little bit. You can see this guy, what it is a heavy lip. This is a 1/4-inch iron, and this little cavity here is actually made from 1/2-inch plate. Now this is a welded steel fire pot. Now there's a lot of people that say that a welded steel fire pot's not going to last, it'll rust out, etc., etc. Maybe so. I have used steel fire pots for the past 5 years. I've never had any problem with them. There's a lot of people that will tell you to go buy a cast iron pot to the tune of about $150. You don't especially need it. Steel fire pots are good, and once you get a little bit of welding skill under your belt, you'll be able to make these with relative ease. Now, those are your two main components. Now this forge, if we can back up the zoom shot and get the idea of the whole forge here. Now this entire rig, if you look right down here, you can see that this entire rig is actually on wheels, so this is a mobile, and I use this on a lot of different demonstrations. Now of course this is a more modern look to it, but one of the key things, especially if you're just getting started, you're going to need to be pulling this thing in and out of the backyard shed. So wheels are never a bad idea. These are scavenged off of a roller dumpster, one of the little trash receptacles. Be creative when you put stuff together. You don't have to worry about how it looks, just how it functions. Now, one other thing that I want to show you, and I'll get some close-ups here, is what's going to be called the duct pipe. Now, if you look under here, you see this little handle? This little handle is actually the clinker breaker. Down in the pot, there is what they call a triangular valve. It's not really a valve, it's just a triangular piece of metal. And what happens is as you're cooking fuel down, it allows you to dump all the ash and nasties out of this system. See down here, if this system was closed up and you did not have this little junction here, what would happen is all the ash would fall down in that little elbow and you couldn't get it out. This is a dump gate, so when all the ash falls out of the fire, what it does, it comes down here and dumps all the ash out. Your fire pot to start with is probably going to have all of these features. We're going to start with what they call the brake drum forge. I think everybody that's ever started in blacksmithing has made a brake drum forge. It's the easiest thing to make. You can buy it, you can put it together with parts you buy from the store and a few parts you can find in the junkyard. So this is a nice version of a forge, a really nice hand forge. Now what we're going to be building, we're going to go to the stores. I'm actually going to show you the parts to buy. It may not be as fancy, but once again, the whole idea is just to have the heat source. And when you get through with your regular forge, your brake drum forge, if you stick with it and you like blacksmithing enough, then you'll have the opportunity to upgrade to something nice like this. But the thing that you're going to need to put your forge together is going to be some sort of tubing or some sort of piping. Now it's got to be metal, and you got to stay away from galvanized. Now we're actually going to go to the store a little later. I'm going to show you how to buy this stuff right out of the store, which is probably going to be the best option for most of you. But if you have experience or you have access to a MIG welder, you know a little bit about welding metal together, your options are going to be easily expanded. But the idea is you just need a piece of metal pipe. Now, I'm standing in front of my own scrap pile, and every blacksmith is going to have a scrap pile. And even if you're a tinkerer, you need a scrap pile because you never know when you need that odd piece. Behind me, I'm going to have several different pieces. If you look right here, you see I have some metal tubing. This is square tubing. It makes absolutely no difference if the pipe or tube is square or round. Remember, this is just going to be for channeling air. You want it no less than 2 inches in diameter. Anything smaller than that, you're just not going to be able to get enough air through it. So 2 inches minimum diameter, be it square or round. And it needs to be metal. Now there's some thinner wall stuff out there. This is probably 3/16 of an inch thick, so this is heavy duty stuff. But any scrap pile, any junkyard is going to have this stuff. Now, the only way you can use this effectively is if you have welding skills or have somebody that can weld something up for you. If not, then we need to take a trip to the store.